and their counsel to the Judiciary Committee. I think that the stories of other people who have been impacted by gun violence are relevant to our discourse because they speak to the fact that there are dangerous people who do illegal things who will have access to firearms. The question is, what will ensure that that does not cause the massive amount of violence that we've seen in the country? And so I'm encouraged by elements of legislation passed in my home state of Florida that focus on red flag circumstances, mental health, that look at people who go through our jails and do everything we can to ensure that when their time in incarceration is concluded, they don't go back to arsenals where they can do harm to themselves or others. But as I review H.R. 8, it seems to me that there's nothing in the bill that would have stopped many of the instances that we've been discussing. And moreover, if we're really looking for solutions, maybe we ought to allow states to do what Florida did and analyze the impacts on our mental health system, recognizing that those systems are different across the 50 states. And so I hope that we will not adopt this federalization of deprivation of constitutional rights. I hope that we will allow our states to continue to innovate and find ways to keep communities safer. And as we hear the stories and circumstances for those here, I hope we do not forget the pain and anguish and sense of loss felt by those all over the country who have been the victims of violence at the hands of illegal aliens. H.R. 8 would not have stopped many of the circumstances I raised, but a wall, a barrier on the southern border may have, and that's what we're fighting for.
Mr. Chairman.
Well,
gentlemen will suspend. Everyone here is here as a guest of the committee, yes. And no matter what you think of what any member of the committee may say, or any witness for that matter, you must not comment or otherwise demonstrate.
Mr. Chairman, may I have my time restored?
Your time will be restored.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that. And so again, I think that was a rather instructive moment for the committee, Mr. Chairman, because as we gather here in Washington, there are a divergent series of views and inputs and thoughts. And my concern is that by adopting H.R. 8, we actually stifle the innovation that could lead to better public safety outcomes if we allowed states and local communities to deal with the challenges my great state of Florida has. And so again, I hope that we'll deal with all of the drivers of violence. The greatest driver of violence in the circumstances that I indicated was not the firearm. It was the fact that we have an immigration system that allows people to come here violently. We engage in...
There will be no comments or demonstrations, please.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Who's it?
Is there any committee rule or a point of parliamentary inquiry? Is there any committee rule that prevents a member of Congress from reciting false statements in a committee hearing that are unsupported by the evidence? Or are members of Congress entitled to just make things up in support of specious arguments? It's a parliamentary inquiry.
I'm not aware, off the top of my head, since I haven't researched this question, I'm not aware of any such rule. I would also observe that the factuality of any statement is always subject to contest by someone who disagrees with it. At a hearing such as this, if a member makes a statement that is not borne out by the facts, it's the prerogative of another member, when his turn comes, to comment on that or to point out his opinion or her opinion as to its truth or falsity.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, my colleague,
Mr. Chairman, no, I believe I still control the time.
Mr. Chairman.
One moment. It is never permissible for members of the audience to comment or vociferously to object. This is a hearing for members of Congress and for the witnesses. Everyone else is here as an observer and must not participate in any way other than by observing.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I make a point of order against the gentleman for Rhode. I make a point of order that the gentleman's words were unparliamentary because they implied the lying or the falsehood of a